Alright, Diablo 4 players, brand new mega update coming out in February, but I gotta warn you guys, there is a massive nerfs to a bunch of the top pit builds that we recently talked about yesterday. Apparently, all of those are considered invalid as they have now removed them from the entire leaderboard. So let's go ahead and go over this massive update. So some of these are live right now, and some of these will be coming out on February 4th. So for starters, I'm going to give you guys the too long, didn't read the entire post of kind of everything that's going on right now with the state of the game and the season here. So first off, the most important thing is that they have actually removed the decay augmentation witchcraft power. Basically, it is now disabled, so using it will not give you any benefit, and you cannot equip it. But if you already have it equipped, well, it doesn't matter because, well, it's basically disabled. So that's the most important thing. And on top of that, there is going to be some buffs. It's not all straight up nerf, but this is like a crazy mega nerf technically to the damage in the game. People were receiving negative damage numbers. The game is just going out of control, basically. So with this update, there is a massive nerf to any of the builds that were using some of the stuff we were talking about yesterday, which is, again, the decay augmentation witchcraft power. It is now no longer going to be the best build. Now, it's going to be re-enabled. Now, when it becomes re-enabled, it still may be the best build for that class. Like, say, Spiritborn or the Sorc, maybe it could still be very good. Will it be the best build in the game? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it actually shapes up after the update, because with Diablo 4, it's kind of sometimes up in the air if something's going to be the S tier. No one expected Spiritborn to be the best build, again, because of additional bugs. But on top of that, there is going to be some other cool updates here that are going to be basically buffs. So with the Necromancer, the Ring of Medellin, just simply wasn't giving the correct numbers. There's going to be an update for that. There's also going to be a update to the Mantle of Fury. So that's going to be hopefully coming out very soon. It's going to be some sort of thing with damage over time from the earthquakes. And I guess, well, if it's a dot build, the decay is going to be pretty good. So those are the major things that I want to go over in this part of the video. There's a lot to take in. Like I said, this is a mega update here. This actually came out last night, and I want to go and talk about it. So there is a bug fix where the cleansing pyres were causing server crashes, and it's something that they had to disable, but now it's going to be re-enabled. But there's also a issue where loot could be dropped from exposed roots, destroyed by other players. This technically should be kind of a nerf in a sense, but it probably doesn't matter. This is essentially what is really good. This would give you lots of rots, so this is basically a buff. Basically, it's re-added into the game, so that's a good thing. Now, I really want to go ahead and talk about the best pit builds in terms of what was available yesterday is now no longer the thing that would be the best over here. I took the screenshot and I'll show you guys Spiritborn was the best class in the entire game by miles. I mean, it had infinite damage. It was on tier 150. You had Sorc doing 150. And you can see now, well, the Sorc is back to 134. And that's a pretty big difference. But I think over the course of time, most of the classes will get pretty dang close. You can see right now, Druid has also done a 150. More than likely through the next week or two, maybe Barb will also be expected to hit it. But I want to say Spiritborn without the special bugged interaction, it may be super far behind. If you look at the numbers over here, you guys can get kind of an idea. But on top of that, there is going to be an update, like I said, on February. This is not out yet, but the nerf as far as the decay, that is active right now. But as far as the updates over here, they're doing some bug fixes, but to be honest, with things like Dark Citadel, I want to say that there really isn't a huge incentive to go ahead and do Dark Citadel after doing it the first time to go ahead and get your cosmetics. But once you've done that, it's kind of whatever. There's not a huge incentive to consistently farm Dark Citadel, but I think that that's an okay thing. There's a lot of bug fixes over here where certain things, witch powers could be swapped during some Undercity run. It's whatever. Are you really swapping your witch powers during Undercity runs? Well, maybe some players were doing it, but for the most part, it doesn't matter. There is another update over here where the QUA rune was listed as a rare in the jeweler, but it's actually magic. But again, most of these things really don't matter that much. But as far as a season of Witchcraft, this does matter. We have some awesome buffs. So the spawn rate of Forgotten Altars has been increased. One thing that I want to give you guys as a bonus tip, there is a potion that you can consume to give you basically double chance to go ahead and get these. That does not remove your current potion. So just like anti-venom at one point, you can actually have 2 elixirs. You can activate that one and it will not overwrite your other elixir. So basically, that is a good thing. If you were wondering where can you get these Forgotten Altars, honestly, just keep playing the pit. You'll eventually get them. That's my best suggestion versus like trying to farm Nightmare Dungeons. Unless you need a Abduct Site, that's another option over here. The more Ravens will appear in the Headhunt zone, so that's going to be kind of nice. I wish they also just had a salvage thing, because I get so many legendaries, honestly, that like sometimes I just wish that there was a way to salvage. That would be like a nice little addition there. But there's new icons for the Headhunts for visualization, so this is like good stuff. One thing with the Armory, and I'm going to note it to them as a Diablo partner, I have a direct line of contact. The one thing that is kind of annoying, and I just want to warn you guys, if you swap like your rune words, it does not snap correctly on the Armory, so hopefully they can do that, and I'm assuming that more than likely these will eventually be kind of fixed. But that's like an annoying thing, that if you run something with a rune word and you try to swap builds, it does not go over correctly. So just mention of that. And then on top of that, there's basically a buff to the Doom Orb, which is actually a pretty popular thing to run. So they fixed an issue where it would take longer than expected to return if the player's orb's target died while the orb was traveling towards it. So basically, it should be smarter, basically more damage over there. They fixed an issue where the decay augmentation mentioned base damage, where it should just state damage. They fixed an issue with Aura of Lament, which would not trigger with certain other powers, such as Breath of the Coven. So most of these, again, more likely will be actually buffs here. They fixed an issue where the altar did not unlock the Witchcraft power on the tab. Fixed an issue where Fire Bats couldn't trigger Hex Whisper, so some of these actually matter quite a bit. And they fixed an issue with the visual effect on like Lifelink. I don't know if really people play this, but if it's there, hey, go for it. They fixed an issue where eventual a spirit would not disappear when unequipped, equipping the Witch power. Fixed an issue where the Witch powers did not display properly in the Fields of Hatred, which is the PvP area, and then fixed an issue where swapping between the Witch powers tab when viewing your inventory could malfunction on controller. Fixed an issue where Firebat servants spawn every 2 seconds instead of 3, so technically this would be a nerf to that one, but again, it's really not that big of a deal. Fixed an issue where the Sorcerer's Primordial Binding passive did not function with any of the Witch powers with the summon tag. Fixed an issue with the Grow power could cause summoned minions to grow multiple times when transitioning between zones. No one could stand in the path of the Swole Golem. The swole. Okay, funny little note there. This is actually kind of interesting. I don't know if this is patched now. There was a crazy bug in Diablo 3 where you can equip like the tall man's finger on Barbarian, and then you would have these Barbarian Ancients that were like literally 50 times the size of the screen. That's actually a really funny bug. If anyone has screenshots or something, or link me a video. I didn't know that this existed. I don't know if this is patched, but that is hilarious. I actually haven't seen it. And then they fixed a bunch of like bug issues. Again, I'm just going over kind of the most important things, and they fixed some issues with the occult gems. This actually does matter here, but most of these are like certain things weren't, again, interacting properly, but I'm going to reserve that for if you want to read everything. I'm going to try to give you guys a condensed version of this, but they fixed issues where the Dust Stone didn't work properly, so this should be a buff to that. They fixed a tooltip over here where it was used with incarnate skills instead of potency. They fixed an issue where the Vile Phylactery occult gem granted double stats when a Witch power was equipped, so I guess that one's getting a nerf over there. Now I kind of want to go over other Diablo important things to kind of just talk about real quick over here. So a lot of people right now are kind of upset in the Sorc community, and I want to say that even though I've seen a lot of people talk about Sorc needs buffs, and I think that it would be nice for all the classes to be able to achieve at least a 100, you are still able to do a 100. There's not really a difference between doing a pit 150 and a pit 1. It's the same sort of gameplay, but in terms of fantasy and power, more likely every single class and almost every single build can do open world content, but as far as the pit goes, there is a pretty big difference between, I would say, the Sorc community in the current state versus, like, let's say the Spiritborn. Like, Spiritborn is miles behind, but just trying to give you guys some of my thoughts on how the game is right now. So they're talking about mid-season nerfs over here. This player says, I'm done with this entire season. So the person's saying he's going to quit because, well, it's unfortunate that Sorc gets nerfed. But again, Spiritborn is actually the class that needs the buffs more than Sorc, but at the end of the day, every single class is able to do a 100. So I'm curious to know how you guys feel about the current state of, and I see a lot of this like time and time again with the community right now over on Reddit as well as over on X or Twitter, but they're saying that like they didn't fix the bugs with the Spiritborn last season, and well, I guess they're nerfing his favorite class over here, which is of course going to more likely be the Sorc. And the thing is that Spiritborn, as far as I'm aware of, during the previous season, wasn't getting negative damage numbers. When you start moving into the negative damage numbers, this is more like severe, and it could actually lead to the bosses healing themselves. And it's kind of crazy because if you've watched the Pit 150, the boss actually takes so much damage that somehow it negatively overflows into like healing the boss with damage over time. This has actually been a bug for a long time in Diablo 4 with any sort of dot build. If you check the boss's HP, sometimes they actually end up healing for a portion of it. I'm not actually sure what actually causes this, but maybe it's some sort of negative damage number. But for the most part, these were unintended interactions. True, the Spiritborn also had unintended interaction. There's a lot of this. Spiritborn and Sorc back in the trash here. Now, I want to say, hopefully they can buff the Sorc maybe in some mid-season patch. I was really hoping to see Ball Lightning specifically be like the top tier build, as that was the stuff that they started buffing. There's new uniques. It should be at least somewhat more viable, and currently it is not the go-to class right now. And yeah, they did destroy a lot of builds. This is all referring to the decay augmentation being disabled, as well as basically just some stuff that's being nerfed. But again, definitely hear you guys on the Sorcs needing to be buffed over here. But like I said, I think the original goal was more likely try to get all the classes to be at least somewhat able to do Pit 100, as if you're not able to do that, well, you can't simply level up all of your glyphs all the way. So I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this. Do you guys think that every single class should be able to do 150, or what do you guys feel like is the benchmark for the game? Because I want to try to relay this info to Blizzard. I think it's kind of interesting to have certain classes sometimes be flavor of the month, but I totally get that there are some people out there that only like to play Sorc. They only play Barb. And the way I see it is that you should facilitate the ability for all players to kind of have fun. And you can kind of do that in the open world. And I think that that was maybe their original design, is like, well, they're fine in World Tier 4, therefore it's okay. But looking at it from my perspective of like someone that plays all the classes, it's fine. I can go play another class if one class isn't really the flavor of the month. But again, let me know how you guys kind of feel about this. But again, at least every class can do 100. And I think that that is like an absolute, like a must. But the rest of the stuff, I mean, if a class is, you know, plus or minus 10, tiers, it is a huge difference in terms of a power fantasy, because the difference between one-shotting everything and maybe like 3-4-shotting the clear speed is significant. And if you're trying to grind multiple characters, you do kind of force yourself to build one of like the better classes to farm it efficiently and do it as fast as possible. So again, let me know what you think of that. Another thing I wanted to mention, this is some sad news. Adam Jackson is no longer going to be at Blizzard. Now, if you guys don't know who he is, he was one of the people that was in the campfire, but he was the lead class designer. So the lead class designer of Diablo is now gone. Well, for Diablo 4, that is. It's now gone. And I'm kind of curious to know, what does this actually mean? So does this mean that there is going to be no new classes? Are we getting someone else to fulfill his role? I don't know. At the end of the day, for me, the way I see it is, I mean, that's pretty alarming. If you're like a Diablo content creator and the game itself is losing their lead class designer, that's a pretty big red flag. But it also could mean that the next class that we're getting, I don't know if it's Valkyrie, Paladin, you guys can speculate, but does that mean that the class is done and maybe we can get another expansion by like, this year? Would it be that crazy to get another expansion in Diablo? Maybe Diablo is going to finally come out as far as being a boss, which I think would be kind of cool to have Diablo into the Diablo game. But on top of that, what that makes me think is maybe they're trying to work on Diablo 5. Maybe he's gone, but they are now working on Diablo 5. But you guys can speculate. I like always listening to like crazy theories and maybe some sort of like ideas that you guys have. Like, why would they have their lead class designer go away? Is, again, the hopeful area and the wishful area is that the new class is done. They're just working on trying to make some new forms of endgame content. That's awesome. But the downside would be like, well, they're just not going to be working on Diablo 4 anymore. They're moving on to, again, Diablo 5, which is another positive way to look at it. But who knows? We'll see what comes out. There's another thing with Barbarian that I want to mention that I haven't seen people talk about. It's apparently aggressive resistance. It is bugged, at least on the passive tree. It does not give you that increase. So keep in mind, I'm just trying to give you guys this quick little info, as some of these do matter for certain builds, right? Also wanted to mention one thing that is kind of annoying, and I've actually been talking about this a lot with Path of Exile as well as Diablo, is we need an in-game auction house or trade system in-game that people can interact with that is much better than third-party websites, because again, I've seen this time and time again, there's another problem with Path of Exile. Path of Exile's main problem is that people do what's called price fixing, and they also never respond to the trades, which is kind of the same thing that is a problem with Diablo.trade, is that people don't respond or they're not online. I get it. But the other problem with Diablo.trade is that people don't even want gold anymore because of dupes and anything that related to that subject matter of just like gold doesn't really hold its value. So people want like money in PayPal, Cash App. It's kind of crazy, but that's the reality of trying to trade for items in the game. Also, the lack of legendary runes. I have definitely noticed it's a lot harder to get some of these legendary runes in the game. Maybe they cranked it up in terms of like making it harder to get these so then we can kind of have a longer season. But the way I see it is I feel like there is not enough legendary runes, especially if you want to craft some of the Ubers. It requires you to then get your gold, which is like impossible to get the amount of runes for most players by just playing the game. You have to interact with buy, sell, and trade to get the amount of gold that's required to get these legendary runes. And it would be really cool if they kind of made it a little bit easier to grant us these legendary runes, because it requires so many to actually craft the mythics. So just some suggestions is to maybe have it not require as many copies of the legendary runes to actually craft some of these mythic items, or some other way to guarantee get some sort of legendary runes. Maybe we can take 3 copies or 4 copies of any other legendary rune and convert it into like one that we want. So then that way there's at least a 3-to-1 ratio as far as like the prices on runes. Because if you guys have traded, you know that the difference between certain runes, they go up in price quite a bit, and that is because some of them are used for crafting, and some of them are used just because they are meta. Going back to this same point over here, because I kept on seeing this posted again and again, which was talking about like Spiritborn was allowed to play last season for the entire season of quadrillion damage, but then the Sorc as well as the Spiritborn this season, they get some sort of crazy bugged interaction. And last season it was a bug too, and they're allowed to have it. And to kind of answer the question once again real quick, is that it's going into negative damage numbers, which then kind of break the game even further. But I'm curious to know, do you guys think it's better that they fix the broken builds ASAP or let it go on for the entirety of the season? Personally, for me as a content creator, I like seeing crazy things, so it lets me show off crazy builds for you guys. Sometimes they get nerfed. I remember when we have the Elixir of Anti-Venom, when I did a Pit 150 and I just one-shotted everything, it felt super OP, but that bug in the last season, they nerfed that literally in one day. Just like in this season, they nerfed the Decay Augmentation literally in one day once it pretty much came out. And then now we're in the situation where there's constantly a feeling of uncertainty when people want to play the game. When you invest like, 20, 30 hours into a build, and some people don't have that much time to play, every single day. They only have a couple hours, and they're like, finally, I get to feel strong. And then it gets nerfed. It makes people not want to play the game. So I don't know where there is a healthy balance between nerfing stuff and, making sure the game kind of functions properly. The one exception that I have with this, and like, I never really want things to get nerfed in a PvE oriented video game, because like the monsters, what are they going to do? Call up Blizzard and say, you need to nerf the players. The way I see it is that if people are having fun, you can nerf it next season, because that only makes people quit. I feel like if one class though is super OP, like last season it was a Spiritborn, then people feel forced to also play that. It's a really hard thing to balance, and I'm curious to know if you guys have any like feedback or comments on that sort of thing. And then also, yes, another thing that, to mention is they are maybe looking at Shadow Clone as well. I was recently showing you guys like rogue builds, and every single build I play running Shadow Clone now because it got buffed in this season. But apparently it's not working with some sort of thing related to Blade Dancer, as well as like the Poison Imbue. So hopefully this could be fixed, because I want to play some Twisting Blades with Poison. So if you were also interested in playing that, maybe wait until the update on February 4th. Again, that's the date that hopefully some of these things will be fixed. And then also they hit Twilight Warding this afternoon as well. So this has also been something that has been changed. And then this is also going to be more likely something that gets fixed in the 4th. If you guys didn't know, Twilight Warding, I believe, was the shield that would actually eliminate your teammates in hardcore. Well, in regular game mode too, but like in hardcore, if you just party up with someone and the player accidentally eliminates his own teammates, yeah, that's going to feel really bad. And yeah, so I guess they just also hit Twilight Warding. That's going to be something that's being changed. But anyways, there is going to be another update regarding the above, which is what we talked about after the weekend. So I'll update you guys on that if there's any more info. If you're new here and you want to be up to date on Diablo, hit subscribe, turn on that bell, and you'll definitely see more, as well as other games, other action RPGs. We got another really cool action RPG actually coming out this year, and I can't wait to show you guys that. But anyways, that's the update. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have a good one. Peace out.